Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's live stream show. We want to touch very briefly on what happened today in Donna Adelson's trial. But on the other hand, I feel like so much of the focus is on Donna Adelson, maybe Wendi. So we need to take it back to Dan Markel. And with me tonight is the wonderful Remy Oliver. Thank you for
You.
being here.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Always
Yeah.
appreciate coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. So both of us are slightly disabled because, as usual, I'm having voice problems and I had to talk so much for work today. And Remy had dental implants recently, so he's having trouble talking a lot
Yeah,
too. So,
fine.
so
The
we're totally,
results, the
yeah, just
results
limited.
of like falling into a swimming pool 20 years ago, like in the dark, it was fun. So 20
Oh,
years later, yeah, it needed to be repaired properly. So, and
oh,
also, yeah, had a basal cell carcinoma removed. So as a reminder to all your listeners, make sure you're going to the dermatologist at least once a year just to get checked out and have stuff like that taken care of. So shout
oh.
out. Yep. So
Is
quick recovery
everything
on them.
okay? Do you
Yeah.
think that just
Yeah.
removing it is
Yeah.
okay?
They were good. So the margins were good. So, I'm
Yeah.
all about getting your physical every year and going to see the dermatologist every year. So can't hurt.
Yeah. Well, what were the signs of having carcinoma?
It was right next to my eye. It just looked like a bump. And so he monitored it and then eventually did a biopsy and said that, yeah, it needed to be properly removed, excised, I think is the word. So they went in and took everything out, numbed me up. None of it hurt. I mean, it's a tiny pinch to get the little shot, but yeah, the guy that did it's a plastic surgeon, so it's great, healed up nicely. Not a drop of blood in the healing process. It's
Yeah.
great. So yeah, they're experts. This day and age, modern medical technology. If you're going, that's what I say. You got to go get yourself checked out. So
Yeah, that's right, because you do look pretty fair-skinned and
oh
you've
yeah,
lived in
right,
Florida for
like a
most of your
ghost.
life.
Right. As
Yeah,
much as I try to hide from the sun, it gets
yeah.
me. So,
It's
but
so important. Yeah, public service announcement, because there's an
mhm.
attorney that I know whose son, who is also an attorney, he died in his 30s because of
Mm.
skin cancer.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
so
terrible.
I mean, it's just so out of the blue. So that's our
Hmm.
public service announcement.
Right,
But
indeed.
but getting back to the Markel Donna Adelson case.
Hmm.
Um, so we were just talking. You said you were busy working today, so you just saw some highlights,
I
right?
caught the highlights. I caught the fireworks with the opening statements. My goodness, she Heather
What do you
Dugan, like,
think?
wow, like she was not playing. I wonder what the chances are that she will cross-examine Wendy. Is there any chance you think Georgia Kaplan's always going to take that one for herself?
I I would be happy if Kappelman did it again because she
Right.
knows Wendy. She knows she has like all the all the receipts.
Oh
She
yeah,
knows how to cross-examine and poke at Wendy because by now she assumes Wendy's gonna lie about everything.
exactly.
So she's got to pull up the transcript, pull out this and that, and cross-examine her.
Mhm.
Treat her like the hostile witness that she is. And
Exactly.
I
Wow.
did hear on Mentor Lawyers Chat that Wendy was there today in the hallway. So she was really inconvenienced having to show up
Mhm.
in court today
Sweating it out. I love how she's got to wait all weekend. Like, is there
in
a place in
Tallahassee.
Tallahassee that is there like a wholesale market that has that much Pepto Bismol that she's going to be required to get through this weekend? Maybe like a Costco,
Yeah.
because oh my gosh, she's going to be nervous as heck, and I love
Hmm.
it. Making her
Yeah.
wait it out till Monday.
Yeah. And the news is she has a new dress on. So she's not wearing the
Oh
same dress
wow.
from the previous trial. She wore a black dress today.
Just
So
shows she's heard enough of how bizarre her previous attire is.
mhm. What do you think of Fulford's opening statement?
Honestly, I only listened to like 2 or 3 minutes of that and then went ahead and skipped over it and got to the witnesses.
Mhm.
From what I heard, it seemed like they were doing some sort of tribute to Dan Markel in some way, right? It seemed the strategy was to pay him tons of respect,
Yes.
which we're never going to see that from Wendy.
Yes.
I mean, I forget who, perhaps it was Carl Steinbeck who said these, one of these lawyers should ask Wendi, tell us some amazing things about Dan and how he was such a great person. Why don't you list your top 5 favorite things that you love about Dan Markel and let the jury just see how fake those responses will be, because it'll just be painful as heck for her to even like try to think that way.
Hmm. Yes. I thought, I gotta give credit to Jackie Fulford. I was very impressed with her opening statement, and that's exactly the way I would have written it too.
All
Because
right.
if you guys have seen some of the comedic shows that Mona and I have been doing,
Mhm.
kind of poking fun at Donna Adelson's extravaganza, pretrial prep improv comedy, um, you know, we kept making jokes that her defense attorneys are going to make her out to be this wonderful, loving grandma. And sure, it was a tough divorce, but she still loved Danny slash Gibbers.
All right.
That there was nothing wrong with their relationship. The joke was that, he divorced Wendi, but we didn't divorce him. And
Mhm.
I would never, ever do anything. I just wrote some emails because I was upset, but I knew he was my grandchildren's father and I would never kill him. There's no
Right,
evidence
right,
against me. Yeah.
right.
So it's almost as if Fulford took our jokes and then turned it
Yeah.
into her opening
I mean,
statement.
your
You know,
content your content is definitely reviewed by these lawyers. I mean, for sure.
Mhm.
You and the other heavy hitters that covered this stuff. So, um, it, I was kind of glancing through everything, but it seemed like Donna was almost trying to act choked up at one point when they were describing, like the medical examiner was describing his examination of Dan. I think I passed, and I'm like, for a split second, is she really trying to act like she's choked up over this?
Mhm.
But I love how Kappelman, when she was during jury selection, one of her questions that she was asking the potential jurors is, "What does a murderer look like?" or "What does a killer look like?" And then she would say, "Does a killer look like a granny? Does a killer look like your grandma?" And she's like, "It's weird, isn't it, grandma?"
Yeah.
But in fact, a grandma can be a killer.
Mhm. Yeah, so Kappelman set the stage by asking these pointed questions.
Mhm,
So, totally, they were all great.
mhm.
Sarah Catherine Tucan, I thought her opening was awesome. But to
Right.
me, since I've watched so many of the previous trials, it was like, okay, this is all stuff we trial followers, we all know it almost by heart. So good for her. She spoke well. But this was the first time I had really seen Fulford giving an opening statement. And I thought she did a really great job for Donna. The slight nitpick, which of course is totally superficial, once
Mhm,
again, she's always wearing jackets that are too long for her. It's like, do you not
mhm.
have a tailor somewhere around Tallahassee to pay $20 to so your jacket sleeve isn't an inch or two too long? It just looks kind of bizarre, like she's playing dress up and her jacket is too big.
Right, right. Maybe she just doesn't care. Some
Yeah.
people are like that. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it should be okay since mentor lawyer and I have kind of like a nice YouTuber relationship. He had said it's okay for me to play his stuff.
Oh, nice.
And I've been sharing profits and supporting his channel and stuff. So without playing the whole thing, I just wanted to play a few little snippets from
Nice.
Fulford's opening, especially since you said you didn't watch the whole thing. So
Yeah, yeah.
okay, let's watch this before we do
Nice.
the victim impact statements.
Cool.
Okay, thank you. Should I do it at 1.25 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
seems reasonable.
Okay.
Wanted to know that when the children went to bed, they didn't forget about Daddy, and he made sure that didn't happen. These kids are not deprived of their father. Their father was brutally taken from them, not just when they were 3 or 4, or 5 or 6, or 7 or 8, but up into their teens. They lost the opportunity because someone took it from them to grow up with a father, to have his involvement and influence in their lives, to talk about what he did as a kid and share his experiences. All of that was stolen from him. That's very important. This Skyping that he did with his kids, Mrs. Adelson, when she had the little boys, actually arranged so she could do that with him. And she would keep the kids in front of the screen while he talked to his children. You've heard a lot about how she hated him. She said some ugly things during the divorce. Pretty foul things, actually. But you're going to learn through the evidence why that was occurring and how she was actually interacting with Danny. They're two very different things. I want to talk to you now about my client, Donna Adelson. She is a normal person, just like all of us. At the time that this happened, she was 64 years old, married to her husband, Dr. Adelson, a dentist. Now they've been married 54 years. It was somewhere in the 40-year range when this happened 11 years ago. And she got up in the morning and went to work, not at her and Harvey's business, like you were just told. She went to the business owned by her son. Every morning, they got up and they went to work. She did the books. She kept the books. She greeted patients. She got charts out. At 7:30 every morning, she was there and organized and had everybody ready to go because they had a little staff meeting. So everybody could know what to expect, what patients they were going to see, what they were going to take care of. She was there working, sometimes late into the evening, just like all of us. She's a normal person. People who know Donna will tell you that she is not the person that the state is portraying her to be. She's kind, caring, loving. She cares more about people than she does about herself. 2, 3, 4 times. This case is really a lot about theory and motive and not evidence. The state has a theory, and for the past 9 to 11 years, in fairness, probably 9 years, they have told the whole world that Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. They've told this story, and it's outrageous. It gets people's attention. It's made a lot of money for the media, interviews, specials. Some people in jury selection said they had watched these specials. Lawyers on there, investigators on there. They made a lot of money for the media, and it got big attention because this is outrageous, what happened. It is truly outrageous. But what's more outrageous is, without any evidence, only motive and theory, they put her at the top of this pyramid. She's the matriarch. She's a matriarch mastermind behind Danny being killed, and they don't have evidence of that. That's what's outrageous. It's outrageous that he got killed, but it's also outrageous that we're sitting here with a jury, and you're going to hear a lot of theory, a lot of motive, and a lot of what they believe the evidence means. They don't get to decide that. The evidence is what the evidence is, and I ask you to patiently sit here and really pay attention to all of the evidence that you hear, every witness that they put on, every piece of evidence that they present to you, all of it. Don't, for 1 second, I'm not asking you to ignore any of that. Please listen to all of it closely. Look for what they actually have as evidence that Mrs. Adelson planned. She planned Danny Markel's murder, that she engaged these men to kill him, and that she gave the money to her son to give to Katie to pay them. You won't find evidence of that. The evidence about the $3,000 a month, I have that here on this board, $3,000 a month. Charlie Adelson gave $2,000 a month, and he instructed his mother, for reasons you're going to learn in the trial, out of his business account to put her on payroll. She worked for him, and she paid that money. It's this man's money, not Donna Adelson. At the end of listening to all of the evidence, we're going to have an opportunity to make closing arguments. And the judge is then going to give you.
Okay, so I don't want to show the whole thing because people should go to channels like deep dive true crime if you want to
Yeah,
see the
totally.
full thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So any comments so far on these snippets?
I mean, you're right. It sounds great. If we didn't know, I mean, of course, it's alleged at this point, but I mean, yeah, it sounds great. It sounds like a great way to set up the defense. But I mean, we all know. So I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, we spent so much time. I can't help but laugh hearing some of the things she's saying. Just like us, I mean, could not be any more entitled, thinking that she's like almost God level above everyone else in the way that she controls people around her, even her loved ones. But man, did they say, did I catch it right that in the opening statement there's evidence that Donna was trying to script someone to be a fake witness?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That informant, Trina Barnhart, we expect her to be one of the state's witnesses. And
wow.
Donna referred to her as her jail daughter.
Oh,
See, like trying to manipulate this
you mean,
poor drug addled criminal in jail. Yeah.
it just
Well,
shows you how some people that act like they're so smart and so above everyone can just make these dumb mistakes over and over again. Like that is the dumbest mistake you could possibly make in jail. That's like the number one mistake you don't make.
yeah.
Wow. He fell
Mhm.
for it. That is
Yeah.
just, yeah, this is an open and shut case at this point. Honestly, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I
It's just,
feel like it. Yeah, of course, her lawyer has to state that, there's no evidence. It's just motive and what they think evidence means. But I have to agree with some of these comments here
mhm,
that she did start in being all with this kind of Southern accent
mhm,
and,
mhm,
butting up to the jurors, trying to act like a normal, friendly
mhm.
person, which, she does a good job at because she's not coming across as abrasive or kind of condescending as Zellman has so far, in my
Right.
opinion. So she has good rapport with the jury. So I think she's doing a great job for her client by trying to humanize not only the victim, but of course,
Right.
Donna. She's just a normal person who works hard and she's a loving grandma. She would never do anything like conspire to murder her former son-in-law.
Yeah, she's such a great, office manager that she writes checks to Katie McDaniel for however many years. I mean, come on. I can't help but
Yeah,
think that when
yeah.
she described her morning pep talks to her dentist crew, which they probably dreaded. I mean, really, who wanted to sit through that
Unless they're
annoying
getting
voice?
paid $11 an hour,
Yeah,
11.50 an hour to listen to
right.
these pep talks.
I
And
highly doubt anyone under that roof was getting paid that amount of money unless their last name was Adelson.
well, that's what Erica Johnson said. She said at one of the trials that she was paid 11.50 per hour.
Mm,
That's terrible pay,
mhm.
even for 2019 or whatever year it could have been.
Yeah, and I mean, she's like, wasn't she the one that Charlie was trying to coach on what to do with the cops were there, or like the
Yeah,
inspectors were there, and she was
yeah,
on the phone and, uh, man,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
If I'm going to be doing that for Charlie, you better be paying me a lot more than that.
Yeah, yeah, you wonder if maybe she got some cash bonuses or extra favors because there was a former employee who talked to me behind the scenes, and she said that the Adelsons would always give gifts to their employees. They would come back from their big trips and bring all these souvenirs for the
Right.
staff. Supposedly, the Adelsons also helped Erica's brother purchase a vehicle. So I'm
Mm,
not sure if they gave him money or if they co-signed a loan. I have no clue, but this is the rumor that I heard from someone who used to work with them. Yeah. So, yeah, this is so true. I noticed this too, that Fulford didn't make the big mistake that Rashbaum did in the opening, because remember, Rashbaum comes out saying, let me tell you about my client. He's innocent. And then my defense attorney friend Daniel Meyer said, "You never do that. Why would you walk out on a limb and say that your client is innocent? Because that
yeah.
changes the standard of proof in the heads of the jurors. That's not,
Mm,
it's not the defense burden to
right.
prove that the client is innocent. Come on."
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, so Fulford is smart. You can tell she is a former prosecutor. So good for her. She didn't embarrass herself or say anything stupid. She
Mm-hmm.
tried to humanize her
Mm-hmm.
client.
How'd you like when I don't know if you listen to Luis Rivera, but yeah,
Yes.
he like Wendi was the first person he named when it came to any of the Adelsons,
Mm-hmm.
that she was involved with the whole point of the murder.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'll always say it. I mean, I don't want to say I love it, but it's just funny to me that he had the idea of, let's not do this. Let's just go, rob the source, either Charlie or Wendi, and just take the money directly from them, and no one gets killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I wish Lewis had stuck to that, though, because he still went along on both trips to try to kill Dan anyway, regardless of what doubts he says he had.
And
Yeah.
the chances of that, I heard him describing it again today. The chances of that bullet just so happening to go through the floorboard and sever the gas line. I mean, I can't imagine the gas line is that wide, or thick.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like he said, I think he said at some point it was like a sign, like, come on, how
Yeah.
much more clear of a sign do you need? The gun goes off and it severs the gas line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, who's prosecuting the case? It's the same people from Charlie's trial, which is Sarah Catherine Dugan and Georgia Kappelman. And they are so ready. They've been doing this case over and over and over again since 2019. So this is definitely a great trial to watch for people who are really into watching trials.
It's when you listen to them from like another room in the house. Sarah Dugan and Georgia Kappelman sound so much alike. The way they talk and just kind of the way I guess they've spent so much time around each other. The way they speak's kind of like merged into one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell. Yeah. Hey, this is a trivia question for you guys watching out there, because one of the commenters asked, who was that woman who was questioning, was it Shadrick or somebody in 2019? There was some young Caucasian woman who was a prosecutor who wasn't Georgia Kappelman or Sarah Catherine Dugan. She was doing some questioning. I was like, I have no idea who this person is because I never saw her again. So I'm kind of stumped with that too. So if you guys remember another female prosecutor who was doing some questioning of a witness back in 2019, please let me know, because that's just kind of like bugging me that, I don't know who this person is. Yeah. So
I guess we'll get Shadrick again. I mean, he is just so funny to watch.
yeah, I don't think Shadrick's going to come back because he's not really necessary to convict Donna. Since Sigfredo has already been convicted and Lewis has become a witness for the state, and Shadrick had nothing to do with Donna. So I don't think he's going to show up. But Shadrick does watch some of the Markel case channels, and I've seen him in the chat in Mentor Lawyers chat, as well as Fancy Fictional.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Oh, my trial doesn't start till Monday. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here right now. Yeah. So I was preparing today for Monday's trial. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm not making it either, so don't feel bad.
You're not what?
It's just too much. I'm not going to make it to the trial either. It's just too much running around for me. It's too far. It's too far to drive, but too short to get an airplane. So whatever. I'll watch it from the comfort of my home.
Yeah, it's definitely more comfortable to just be at home or in a hotel room instead of there on those uncomfortable benches. Yeah.
Although I see Harvey and I'm like, that would be bizarre to me to just be in the same room as Harvey, even more so than Donna. He just looks bizarre. And did you see that picture that someone took of him, like waving his hands?
Yeah, where he's like this, with both hands, looking creepy. Yeah, I made a short out of it because I thought it was so weird. Yeah.
He looks like a villain. I mean, his mouth is drawn into like a permanent frown.
Yeah, just weird, like a wacko. It's like, don't behave like that when you're 81 years old and
Yeah.
you're there to support your wife in a murder case. Come on.
The sole supporter, apparently. I mean, you could see like tumbleweeds going through that defense, those
Yeah.
defense views
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
noticed that. But there was a lady and what looked like a teenage boy who was there, and I don't think that's the older son. I mean, it's been ages since I've seen pictures of the older son, but it didn't look
Okay.
like him. And plus, I don't know what the rules are in Florida, but here in my state, you have to be at least 18 to go inside the courtroom and just sit around watching. So, if they have that rule in Florida, then, the oldest son wouldn't even be allowed into the courtroom because he's too young right now. So I
Right.
don't think that's the son,
I saw who you're talking about. I mean,
the
it's probably
teenage
someone that was paid to appear like they're supporting her.
I don't know, like some FSU college student getting paid minimum wage, you think? I don't know.
Georgia, someone needs to get a hold of that picture of Wendi at that bar mitzvah. That cringe, you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
red
how
bra
embarrassing.
mitzvah dress. Yeah.
Oh, that is the most embarrassing photo I've seen in many years. I mean, it's just so inappropriate, just so just no class, honestly. Just considering what the circumstances. I mean, wear whatever you want, honestly, but I mean, considering the circumstances, it just, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
she's just
yeah,
clueless.
we have no clue who that teenage or young man was, but I don't think that's Dan and Wendy's son, just based on what he looks like. Oh, okay. It's Zelman's paralegal's mother and her brother. Is that a joke? Maybe you're joking. Yeah, I think this is hilarious. 1985 needs to call Harvey and tell him he needs to ditch that members only esque type of jacket. Yeah, that's what another commenter mentioned. Yeah, someone said it's the mother and brother of the paralegal. Okay, interesting.
I
Yes,
wonder.
Louis and Farah did testify.
Okay, yeah. I wonder if Phil Markel's caught eye contact with Harvey. Imagine if they bumped into each other in the bathroom or something. Like, I'm just wondering, is there separate bathrooms for the family of the victim or anything? Like,
I don't think so. I mean, maybe they could if they really wanted to be separated and not have to talk to people potentially.
right.
Yeah, but in general, it was just the general public bathrooms that had multiple stalls. That's what I saw.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, about this evidence of Donna's handwritten script for Drina, yeah, I think that's really bad for her. The
Nail in
fact
the
that she
coffin.
might go through such great lengths to write a script telling her jailed daughter what to say on her behalf. I mean, how controlling and entitled do you have to be to manipulate someone like that? Yeah.
What went on? I'm not sure if you saw where the defense was like frantically searching for something, and Judge Everett was not having it. He was, accusing them of wasting the jurors' time and glaring at them while they were desperately trying to like find something through a bunch of notes. It was,
Oh.
yeah, it was interesting.
Oh, okay. I guess I missed that part because, like I said, I was busy working most of today, so I just kind of
Okay.
half listened and then fast forward through a bunch of stuff later this afternoon or played it at 2x speed. So let's just show a little
Mhm.
tidbit here where I thought that Zellman was terrible with Isom. He was so arrogant and condescending toward the poor guy. He's a retired police officer who must be close to 70 years old now, and the way Zelman taught to him was just kind of rude. So, okay, so let's just play this a little bit and then we'll go on to the victim impact statements. Okay.
Phone call is from Charlie's lawyer.
Correct.
No further questions.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so
at the time of this investigation, when it began, how long had you been with the Tallahassee Police Department?
25 years.
You'd spent vast majority of your career as an investigator detective.
No, I've probably spent most of my career as a street officer.
Okay. At the time of this, how long had you been a detective?
6 years.
And you continue to be the lead for Tallahassee Police Department on this investigation until your retirement, correct?
Correct.
Now, it's important when you're conducting an investigation, especially a homicide investigation, for you to be thorough, correct?
Yes.
You don't want to leave essentially any stone unturned,
Yes.
obviously within reason.
Yes.
You talked about your agency beginning to obtain cellular phone records of the Adelson family pretty early on, correct?
Mm,
You started getting them in July,
yes.
and you learned that Wendi Adelson's parents, my client and her husband, lived in Miami, correct?
I believe at the time it was Coral Springs, but
They had a place on Miami Beach.
well, I know that they ended up at Miami Beach. I don't recall at the time of the homicide if they were living on Miami Beach.
Okay. But you knew that they were in South Florida.
South Florida is correct.
Okay. And so as your investigation continued and you started looking into, you made the connection between the two individuals who drove up here, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera. You made that connection to Catherine Magbanua, correct?
Right.
And you made that connection to Charlie Adelson, correct?
Correct.
And then you see these large cash deposits into Katie McBanua, or you see Katie McBanua's unemployment status.
Right.
She's still paying her bills in South Florida.
Yes.
Now, you also mentioned that you contacted the SunPass Authority.
Yes.
Did you ever, you'd already made a connection between the investigation and the Adelson family at this point, pretty quickly.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay. Well, over a couple years. By the time June of 2016 comes, comes about, you've already made that connection.
Oh, yes. By that time, yes.
And you contacted the SunPass Authority for my client's SunPass records, correct?
No.
No, you didn't. Did you contact the Turnpike Authority for construction records for the Turnpike?
Construction records?
Yes.
No.
What about for I-95 or 595?
To my knowledge, there is no, and I believe I established that with the FDOT, Florida Department of Transportation, that there was no toll system on 95.
I was asked about construction records on 95.
I did not inquire about construction records.
What about accident records?
Accident records?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't it true that my client and her husband shared an email address?
I believe they did.
You learned that during your investigation. In fact, I think Wendi said that, didn't she, in her interview with you?
I don't recall whether she said it.
Where is? Do you have? Mr. Eisen, you identified emails that are contained in State's Exhibit 64, correct?
Yes.
And according to your testimony, these are emails between my client and her daughter, correct?
Yes.
Let's see. And in some of these emails, my client called Danny Markel bad names.
Yes.
She never actually said she hated him, did she, in any of these emails?
That came through the grandchildren.
Okay. At the time, the grandchildren were 3 and 4.
I don't recall the age. They were young.
And you also testified about a bribe. You are not a family law attorney, are you?
No.
Okay. And you have no idea whether or not it's permitted for one party to offer any sort of financial incentive to another party when it comes to relocation.
That's not in my realm.
And you also testified about Mr. Markel's life insurance policy, pension, and you said that those funds went to his children with Wendi as a custodian.
Some of them, and some of them was Dan Markel's sister as a custodian.
Okay. Did my client receive any financial benefit in the form of Danny's life insurance, his pension, or anything else?
Not that I could tell.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to catch that part where he was like, well, you're not a family law attorney. I was like, come on, this is stupid because, anybody can just read a motion and tell, this is what the person is trying to do in a custody or divorce case. That was
Right.
uncalled for.
And you are a family law attorney, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. I thought so.
But I still think that was weird, and then the way he started out just seemed so pompous. The way he was
Yeah.
like with his glasses on and just kind of like glaring at him in this kind of like menacing way. So,
Right?
what's up with his demeanor? He's not helping. Yeah.
Right. Kind of childish.
Yeah.
And Rajpal was kind of that way. Rajpal was always quick to like go up against them, and like he was too like hyped up, like too pumped up.
hmm Yeah. Dan is buried in Toronto in a Jewish cemetery. So if you have a copy of his mother, Ruth Markel's book, it's a great book called The Unveiling. She has some pictures of his tombstone there. Yeah. Is the defense required to have a law degree? Yes. Yeah. In order to practice law, you have to have a law license. There are states like California where you don't have to actually graduate from an accredited law school to sit for the bar exam, but I'm sure in Florida you have to have a real law degree to then take the bar exam and then become licensed. So yeah, good
Yeah,
cop,
I think
bad cop. I don't know.
I think I've asked you this before, but is there a chance, or does it make sense that there would be evidence right now that the defense is still withholding that they haven't revealed for like Donna or Harvey or Wendi, or would it have to only be like newly discovered evidence, or could there quite possibly be evidence from like 2016 or 2017 that for some strategic reason Georgia has kept it secret? Does that make sense? Do you think
No,
there's stuff?
the state has to provide the evidence, the defense in advance.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think there's going to be some big surprise thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. Other than what Donna was like trying to coach that girl to be a witness. My gosh.
Yeah. So, I
Talk
mean,
about the nail in the
yeah,
coffin.
I'm sorry if I spoke too generally. Some
Mhm.
stuff would be surprising to us as the general public, but in general, what the prosecution has had to be turned over to Donna's attorneys in
Right.
advance. Yeah. Well, do you want to go ahead and start reading? I'm so
For
sorry.
sure.
42 minutes in, and I know we
Yeah,
don't
no
be
problem.
here too long due to our voice or speaking problems. So
For justice for Dan Markel, let's pay
yes.
him some more respect. So
Yeah, let's focus on the victim here, Dan Markel, instead of Donna. Okay, so do you feel okay reading all this?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start it off with Dear Sir.
Thank you.
Dear Sir, I remember when I first heard the news that Danny had been shot. I was standing at my kitchen sink, washing my napping toddler's sippy cups when the call came in. In disbelief, I turned around and called my college roommate to say, "Oh my God, something's happened to Dan. I think he's dying." The horror of those moments has only been eclipsed as the true story of Dan's stalking and murder have come to light, as we have learned the gruesome, greedy details of his final moments in pain and suffering, murdered solely because he loved his boys, Line and Ben so much. Is that Link and Ben so much? I first met Dan in 1991 during the first weeks of our freshman year of college at Harvard, where we lived across the yard from one another. He formed an immediate impression: sunny, happy, charming, a smart aleck, nerdy guy who really couldn't take himself too seriously yet, had every reason to do so. He was brilliant, and he was the most personable kid I met that year. We tagged each other over the course of the next few years, Dan dedicated to the study of law, of righteousness and justice. Me circling the same, but more interested in life, working towards human and civil rights. Summers in Cambridge, Dan gathered friends together, hanging out in the garden of the house he was sitting that summer. Marty Peretz won't mind, he'd say. Stay a little longer. And we'd stay a while longer, not wanting to leave his or the evening's golden glow. A few years later, Dan welcomed me to law school with his same boundless enthusiasm. He'd gone a couple years ahead of me and was eager to convince me to try out for the law review, to advise on course, to introduce me to his friend Steve, Justice Breyer now, to debate some convoluted point of law or other. We'd adventure a bit around the campus, and Dan would do his best to dispel my first year insecurities, to convince me that not only did I belong there, I could thrive. And it is this Dan that I miss the most, the big-hearted, generous, most encouraging genius who was convinced that we all had value, that we all had something worthy of contributing to not just the academy, but also the world beyond. Always kind, always doing his best to convince others to believe in themselves as much as he did. That is the Danny in my mind. I miss him so. Years down the line, after I returned from work overseas, Dan and I started catching up in some of his famous phone calls. Amy, he'd say, you've got to, and he'd go on to try to convince me to reach for my dreams, to write some article or another, apply to law professorships, to break out of my single parent shell. Because in that area, Danny came before me a few years too. His boys are just a couple years older than my own, and my ex walked out on me just a short while before his, similarly pursuing a highly contentious custody battle. We commiserated our losses, compared notes, and were astonished at the surreality of our situations. As we treasured our babies. I did not know if I've ever heard anyone treasure their time with their boys as much as Danny did. He was his old, effusive self to a factor of infinity, so utterly in love with these two magical creatures he helped create. I cannot think of their loss. It is so great as to be actually completely unimaginable. Similarly, I do not know how Danny's wonderful family continue to bear this excruciating ordeal and this heartbreaking loss. I miss Dan incredibly. I didn't discover until years after his death that he'd considered me a freshman crush. How blind I was. So sorry, Danny. And I have missed his encouragement, support, and words of wisdom as I have struggled to find my feet again as a single mom on my own. I never did manage to hit the academic job market. I do believe, had he not been killed, he would have got me there eventually. And I think often of where he'd be, where we'd all be, had he been allowed to live. I still cry for him, for his boys whom he loved so deeply, and for the collective loss we all have suffered when I think of what could have been. Sometimes the tears come when I'm at my sink, looking out the window, just as I was those years ago when we first heard the awful news. There never was and will never again be another like him in this world. Respectfully yours, Amelie von Bryson.
Thank you. What a touching letter. It's just so gripping the way she describes her memories of Dan. And
So authentic.
do you need a break, or do you think you can keep reading a little more?
Yeah, let's keep going.
You okay? Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you can just tell those words that's authentic words. I mean, you can read like somebody writes like a paragraph or two in memoriam of somebody, but then when you read something like what we just read, it's, those are words that are coming straight from the soul, 100% honest and authentic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is another letter. These were from Charlie Adelson's trial victim impact statements that were gathered from friends and relatives.
To the Honorable James C. Hankinson, I have known the Markel family since the summer of 1978 when they moved from Montreal into the house directly next door to mine in Toronto. Our families became fast and everlasting friends. Shelley is to this day my oldest and dearest friend. Since we were 8 years old, our lives have been intertwined. Shelley and I attended the same schools, summer camps, and universities. We had our children at the same time, and they attended school together as well. We have been very fortunate to maintain such a rich and loving friendship over the last 42 years. Danny left Toronto for university in 1991. Although I didn't see him often, we stayed in touch over social media as well as during the many visits he made to Toronto. He always made an exceptional effort to keep in touch with all of his friends and family. Despite the geographical distance between Shelley and Danny, their relationship remained strong. As their families grew, Danny made a concerted effort to ensure that his children knew their family in Toronto because family was so important to Danny and the Markels. Danny was determined to keep the bonds strong and often brought his family to Toronto for a week at a time. In the spring of 2014, Danny brought his children to Toronto to spend Passover together with his whole family. I bumped into him in the foyer of the school that both my children and Shelley's children attended. Danny was very much looking forward to surprising his nieces and nephew at pickup time with his presence. We chatted for a while as we waited for the kids to emerge from the school. He asked with genuine interest for updates about my family. He then told me about the tough time he was experiencing at home with his divorce proceedings. It was obvious that he was working through some very trying situations, but nonetheless, he was firm in his commitment to his children and their well-being. I was truly impressed by the love and devotion he had for his children, and it was clear that they were his most treasured possession. He alluded to the difficulties that the Adelson family were creating in trying to reconcile the various agreements. Despite these troubles, there was nothing that would stand in the way of him being with his children, providing them with the love, care, and education that he was so very passionate about. Upon Danny's death a few months later, I watched the demoralizing effect it had on his family, and particularly my friend, Shelley. Throughout her life, Shelley was an emotionally strong, resolved, and focused person. She was the one I would always turn to in my moments of difficulty. However, the media attention and endless questions about Danny's murder and protracted legal proceedings have worn on Shelley and her family. Their emotional fatigue became clear to me. I had not seen this before from Shelley. Moreover, all the uncertainty about the trial and its outcome has forced Shelley to put many things in her own life on hold, and this has worn on her greatly. Over the last few years, the Markel family has continuously made efforts to see the boys, send gifts, call or FaceTime on birthdays and Jewish holidays, but their attempts have been unsuccessful. The frustration the Markel family has had to endure because of their inability to connect with Danny's children has been clear and hard to watch. For the Markels, family is and always will be so important. Danny's boys are a critical part of the Markel family, but they no longer carry the family's name. They no longer know the family, as it has been almost 3.5 years since they have interacted with Shelley and her family. They no longer have their aunt, uncle, grandparents, and first cousins to know and love. Shelley and her family are heartbroken by this reality. The impact of this situation has been significant and will be lasting for Shelley, the Markel family, and ultimately Danny's sons. Sincerely, Barbara Rose Palter, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Oh, it's so infuriating.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Okay, you okay with reading some more?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
just keep
I
going.
mean,
If you need a break, let me know.
yeah, can
Thank
you
you.
imagine though the frustration? I mean, really, I hope Georgia really digs into that this time around with Wendi and complicating that stuff as much as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, that
Okay.
was from 2019. I'm sorry. Looks like some of these letters were gathered from the first trial also.
Mhm.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Dear Judge Hinkinson, in Jewish tradition, there is a legend that someone who successfully matches 3 people with their future spouses earns a place in heaven. There are various explanations for this story. One is that God matched Adam with Eve, so that bringing spouses together is doing God's work. In a life cut far too short, Dan Markel made 2 successful matches. We are one of them. We each met Dan in the first few days of college. Adam lived 2 flights below Dan in his freshman dorm. Steve met Dan through his own freshman roommate. For each of us, our first conversations with him stand out in our memory. He wanted to know everything about us, where we grew up, how many siblings we had, what their names were, what our interests were, what we wanted to do with our lives. In the space of a few hours, it seemed as though he knew everything about us. He remembered all of it. We each built strong, independent friendships with Dan, but he didn't actually introduce us until near the end of that first year in college. It certainly wasn't with the goal of making a match. This was the early 1990s. Both of us were deeply in the closet, and the notion that we could be a couple was the furthest thing from our minds. But Dan somehow sensed that we would be great friends, and it was with that in mind that he brought us together. Over the next couple of years, the 3 of us became an inseparable group. Senior year, we all lived together, and we remained in close touch after graduation, even as Dan went off to Israel and then England on postgraduate fellowships. Steve went to study in Germany, and Adam moved back to New York City. It was in that year, 1996, that the 2 of us finally became a couple. We've been together ever since. We remember the joy on Dan's face when we shared the news. We were, of course, nervous about telling him. How would he react to the fact that 2 of his closest friends were gay and dating each other? But for Dan, the fact that we had found happiness was all that mattered, and he thought it was hilarious. He had quite literally matched Adam and Steve. At our wedding in 2006, Dan danced and celebrated with unbridled enthusiasm. He was part of the small crew who lifted our chairs and held them aloft as we celebrated another Jewish tradition. On the video, which we have watched again and again in the years since his death, you can see his happiness. This is how we will remember him. Over the next few years, with our lives centered in New York and his in Tallahassee, we saw less of Dan. Still, our friendship endured as we each welcomed children into our lives. One of our last visits with Dan was in Cambridge in May 2013. We had just moved here to take new jobs, and Dan's visit coincided with our oldest son's 4th birthday party, which meant we didn't have much time to spend with him, but he joined the party, mingling with the other preschool parents and having a grand time, even though he didn't know anybody, and the occasion was marked by sing-alongs and cupcakes rather than grown-up conversation. Dan took so much pride in the fact that we had children because, for him, children were life's greatest gift. Dan's love for his 2 boys was obvious and overwhelming. It defined him. They were the central focus of his life. One of the greatest tragedies of Dan's death is that those boys are now being raised by the very people who conspired to have him murdered and who are working every day to erase his memory from their lives, we hope they do not succeed. We always imagined we would have Dan with us over the decades, challenging us and cheering us as we moved through the stages of our lives. We expected more visits, more meals, more stories. We look forward to telling our kids how Dan brought us together and telling Dan's kids silly stories about his college hijinks. We looked forward to one day comparing notes with Dan as our children started college and formed adult friendships of their own, and perhaps attended the weddings of each other's children. None of this will come to pass. Nor did Dan ever have the chance to make his third match, though we have little doubt he would have. But as abbreviated as Dan's life was, we know that God saw the light in his beautiful soul and how hard Dan worked to repair our broken world. We know that Dan earned his place in heaven. Dan's academic study was justice, a topic that was at the core of his being. Writing about justice fused his passion for Jewish study, his instinctive sense of right and wrong, and his love of argument and debate, as well as his delight in taking provocative stands. It saddens us beyond measure that the subject to which Dan devoted his academic life now hangs over his death like an inescapable shadow. Will there be justice in our lifetimes for Dan? Will there be appropriate punishment for the people responsible for taking the life of our friend? Will there be some consequence that deters others from committing such heinous crimes? We ask your honor to do everything in your power to answer those questions with a definitive yes. Sincerely, Adam L. Berger, Stephen E. Frank. What a beautiful story that one was. And we see these themes repeated, dedication to his kids, genuine enthusiasm for seeing people succeed, even if they're just people that he just met, constantly offering, his advice to help people, better themselves and challenge people and sit back and love to see the rewards that they reap. But the dedication to his children, that's a recurring theme we see. And like Judy, you and I have read so many of these over the years, and
Yeah.
it seems like every single one, his dedication to the children. So sad. It's so sad that it ended up like this, but
Yeah.
can't help hoping that someday those boys will watch videos like these.
Yes. Okay. You want to continue?
Yeah, let's do it.
Need a break? Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Judge Wheeler, I write to share the impacts of Dan Markel's life and murder on me. His children and mine are the same ages, and we would attend the same Tallahassee Jewish community events. If there was something to celebrate, Dan was there with Benjamin and Lincoln. He brought an infectious energy for observing the passages of life, fully present in mind and spirit. He showed up in joyful moments and in times of sorrow, modeling for his sons and for the rest of us too, what it means to live a life oriented towards reverence, thoughtfulness, and justice. And while he did so, a woman he had never met, Catherine McBanois, was quietly plotting how to kill him. I observed the unmistakable value his life brought to the communities he chose and have seen the devastation his murder delivered. Just the same, I witnessed up close the heartbreaking grief of some of those closest to him, whose sense of loss is profound and lasting. There's a missing space where Dan, Benjamin, and Lincoln once joined in. Dan had so much left to create and give. Uncountable lives have forever been changed for this selfish, terrible act. Respectfully, Karen Cyphers.
So I haven't seen Karen Cyphers in the courtroom yet, but I did notice Dan's old friend from Harvard Law School, Tamara Demko, was there
Hmm,
sitting out there watching. And Karen has been totally instrumental in helping to get the Markel Act passed. She
nice.
happened to meet Ruth Markel by accident at a hair salon during one of the trials. So she's also been a guest in the past on Surviving the
Yeah.
Survivor. So you
Okay.
guys probably have heard of her.
Mhm,
Yeah.
I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to do one more?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Thank you.
Oh, so, okay, which one are we on? I'm looking at, okay. All right. Each one is better than the previous. These are so good. It has taken me a long time to write this letter. Every time I start, I become very emotional. I know to the world, Danny was an academic, a professor, and an intellect. But to me, Danny was my cousin and my friend. The memories I have with Danny are all filled with warmth and love. Every time he walked into a room, he brought light and love with him. He was the most devoted father to his two boys, Benjamin and Lincoln. He was a loving son to my aunt and uncle, Ruth and Phil, and an incredible brother to my cousin Shelley. He had a very special bond with all his nieces and nephews, and he really was an incredible friend to all. My times with Danny are not remembered by his academic excellence and achievements, although they were beyond impressive. My memories of Danny are from our family get-togethers, dinners, and celebrations. He was always the life of the party, always singing and dancing and smiling. Our Passover Cedars were one of his favorite family gatherings. He would never miss it, regardless of which part of the world he was in, whether Israel or Cambridge or Washington or Tallahassee. He always found a way to be there. That's how important family was to him. As much as I miss Danny, the fact that I do not know his boys and that they aren't able to attend all of our family gatherings makes this emptiness in my heart that much more profound. Danny was loved by all. He was loved by me. Danny was missed by all. He is missed by me. I pray that justice will finally prevail. I pray for my family to eventually find some form of peace. Lisa helped.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we
Mhm.
can end it there because it's been over an hour, and I did promise you let's not go over an
Yeah,
hour
yeah.
because it's been a long day for both of us with work and our medical issues, I guess. Yeah. So it's so touching. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for lending your voice to these
no
people who
problem.
knew and loved Dan Markel. And there's
An
so
honor.
much more, many
Oh,
more
yeah,
pages. So maybe
right.
we'll have more live streams to read all this because
We'll keep
I think
going through
it's
them.
so important, because all the videos are just focusing on Donna now. And she
Mhm.
doesn't deserve all this attention. She seems
Right?
like a horrible, manipulative criminal, in my opinion. Of course, she hasn't been convicted yet, but we need to focus on who the true victim and who deserves the attention really is Dan Markel. And it's still
Exactly.
so sad to see both his parents there sitting there having to go through this again.
And
Yeah.
like they're so like I'm just saying I would be freaking out. I wouldn't be able to contain myself. They're just so evolved to just be able to kind of calmly sit there in the presence of Donna or previously Charlie or Katie or any of these people. Like, I don't know, it just speaks volumes that they can just sit there and kind of remain very composed. Whereas if it was me, oh my goodness, I'd be
Yeah.
losing it.
I mean, I don't know how they can stand not wanting to jump over and like beat Donna or say something to Harvey because Harvey is now there sitting there. So it's just so horrible what they have to go through, and then they have to still remain dignified and sit through all of these
Yeah.
stories and lies. Once again, this is our opinion. She has not been convicted yet, but it seems like they did choose a good jury that it actually happened a lot faster than I thought it would. So things
Mhm.
are just speeding along now. Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, like, did you see when the jury was picked, like Donna's like expression of like intense irritation. Did you see that when it was finalized
I
to the
didn't
point where
actually I didn't
yeah,
see it, but people were talking about it. They said
Judge
she looked
Everett
upset.
it,
Yeah.
Judge Everett was driven to like ask her about it. Like it was such an obvious like annoyed expression that he was like, are you okay with this, Donna? And then she was like, yes, I'm okay with it. But
Mhm.
she had that typical just like exasperated look on her face as soon as they said this is the jury. So that's good. It seems like the jury's got like what, ex-military,
A pastor, at
oh,
least
he's
one,
so screwed if there's
two,
an ex-pastor.
yeah, 2 African American, 8 men, 6
Hmm.
women. Yeah.
Nice.
And I do wonder because there was something the judge said about some sort of email about Wendi being on Match.com, and it
Hmm.
said something that could be offensive to the 2 African American jurors. So I do
Wow.
wonder if maybe Donna wrote something to Wendi saying that she didn't want her dating African American men,
We'll
or
see.
I don't know. We're
Who
just
knows
guessing.
with those two?
Yeah.
Nothing's off the table with those two. I mean,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Wow. So, and did one of the jurors make it through, the guy that was like wrongfully arrested? Do you remember that? One of the jurors gave a story about how did he make it through?
That I'm not sure, but I remember hearing him talking on and
Yeah.
on about that.
Great.
I was
He
like,
was so
wow.
like cool with it. He's just like, yeah, I was arrested. They figured it out. It's cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have no idea what the backgrounds are of every single juror, but
Yeah.
once I get to Tallahassee, I will report on everything I see. So I'm looking forward to that after my trial is
Nice.
over. It hasn't happened yet. It starts on Monday, and
You'll be
I mean,
great.
this is what's so unpredictable about civil trials, at least where I practice. They
Hmm.
tell you to show up on Monday morning, but there are 34 other trials scheduled for that same day
Mm.
because they're banking on the majority of people needing continuances or settling on the
Hmm.
courthouse steps. So
Right.
it's very frustrating. We still have to prepare this weekend. So that's why I got to run. I'm so sorry, guys. But, I'm so happy with the way the trial is going so far. And I'm so glad that Remy is back because I know you're
Yes.
busy with your own.
We got to do some more for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
who do you
So,
think? What do you think is going to be the lineup for Monday, or like the tail of the tape? Who do you think we'll get?
oh, I think
Wendi?
Wendi. Yeah. I
Oh,
think Wendy's probably going to testify on Monday because she was
nice.
right there showing up today, hanging
Oh, I
around.
love that Georgia made her sweat it out today. I love that. Oh, that
Yeah.
had to be purposeful.
Oh, 2
I mean,
pastors. Thank you. Yeah. So, hey, Mona asked a question. People have said those people sitting behind Donna today were the paralegals. Was it mom and brother? I think that's
hmm,
what people are saying. I don't know for sure,
wow.
but
Like I said, they
mentor,
probably were given like $50 each to sit there all day.
yeah, they got to be paid for their time because doesn't that young man have to go to school soon, or shouldn't he?
Yeah, like how old is he? Should he be getting breaks every hour?
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, okay. Tana wrote about the divorce judge being black. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Judge
Yeah.
Everett's awesome. Like I think I've said it before. He was I believe, the first male African American judge in that circuit, the Second Judicial Circuit. So that's awesome. He's all around so cool. I wish I could meet him. I love how he was like mentioning the snacks. Did you hear him like make sure that the jurors heard that he took a special trip to Costco
Yeah, I heard
and he
about
got
that.
them
That's
snacks?
that's real nice. He's like
And
a
then
cool guy. Yeah.
yeah, and he checked back in the next day. Like he's like, juror number one, what's your opinion of the snacks? Did I do a good job? I wonder what the snacks were. I'm guessing probably like chips and candy or something.
Yeah, well, hopefully it's something more nourishing, like some protein bars, so they're not like sitting there with the shakes or
Yeah,
something.
right. Then
Yeah.
passing out after the sugar rush.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, we'll definitely be in touch if you have time in a couple of weeks
Yeah.
to
Oh
come
yeah,
back.
for sure.
Everybody's praising you for your great
Oh,
reading skills, and they say
thanks.
you should read audiobooks, and you have a very relaxing, peaceful voice. Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks. I love doing it for Dan Markel and for you. So we'll
Yeah.
do it again for sure. Appreciate
Yeah.
all the viewers watching.
Yeah.
We
Thank you
appreciate
guys for
y'all
caring.
for
Okay.
caring and watching and supporting justice for Dan Markel. Next week, the showdown
Yeah.
Kathleen versus Wendi. She's going to own her butt.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you, Remy. Have a great weekend,
See y'all. You
everybody.
too.
Justice for
Bye-bye.
Dan. Thank you.
Justice for Dan.